Thank you all so much for joining us this morning to the Senate Municipalities Committee. The agendas that we passed out, we're going to modify the agenda very slightly. We're going to add Senate Bill 2457. Anita is passing that out, and we'll take that up after we take up Senate Bill 2474. In the first item on the agenda, we're going to skip that one. So we have invited guests here. We have Senator Hart Bryant, Senator Whaley, who would like to present Senate Bill 2474, and as I understand it, our very own Senator McCon, who sits on this committee, is also in support of this bill. So, Senator Bryant, would you explain the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been in the legislature almost 40 years. No one's ever invited me to the Energy Committee, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate your being the first. The bill that's before you is to help rural areas near Okolona, New Albany, and Holly Springs. I've handed out a couple of maps that I got from the Public Service Commission. And if you look at the maps, they explain the situation better than I can. This is a map of territories where municipalities have certificated areas to serve electric power. And all over the state, they're little bitty squiggles, because almost every municipality in the state provides electric power sort of the same way its city limits are, although there are little bumps here, yonder, and there. But basically, the utility, the electric department of a city has a service area that's just about the same as their city limits, except for 3 situations. Those are Okolona and New Albany and Holly Springs. And for whatever reason, when EPAs and municipal electricity, municipal utilities and all were getting set up, that's what happened. So these 3 areas, the colored areas on your map, are rural areas that are not served by an EPA. They are surrounded by EPAs. Everybody else is getting internet. And the individuals in these areas, which are people that those of us here represent, don't understand that. They want to know why. And they don't really care about all the ins and outs of this law and that law and this, that, and other thing. All they know is everybody else out in the rural areas is getting internet, and I don't know why I can't. So this doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the state. It doesn't have anything to do with any larger issues. It's simply to let the people in the shaded areas get internet. And the method of doing that is to allow the Amory, New Albany, and Okolona municipal electric departments to provide broadband just as though they were an EPA. And that will go a long way towards solving the problem in these areas. Number one, they're not going to have internet tomorrow. It won't solve the whole problem, but it will at least allow the local folks to fix it, because now they are prohibited by state law from doing anything. All this does is get the state law out of the way for these 3 areas. If there are any technical problems with the bill, any desires to tighten it up, I certainly will work with anybody that has concerns about that before the bill gets called up on the floor. I've talked to the chairman about that, but the bill's doubly referred. And just personally, I think I and those of us from these areas would implore the committee to please let us get this bill on the calendar. And if there's any misgivings or anything we need to do to tighten it up or reassure people, we'll be happy to. But the goal of the bill is to allow people in these areas to get internet service, and to allow, if they want to, public schools to participate in that. because one of the problems that we've all encountered is the public schools need to talk to their students and their parents, and their parents and the students need to be able to talk to them on the internet. And they can't do it if they ain't got no internet. So that's what the bill does. And I appreciate the committee's time. And I appreciate the chair inviting me here. Mr. Chairman, if you or others have questions, I'll try to answer them.
Thank you, Chairman Bryant. Are there any questions from members of the committee? House official passes the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. That bill will be reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I be excused?
You may be excused. The next bill. Thank you, Senator Whalen, Chairman Whalen. The next bill, Senator Boyd, Senate Bill 2457. This bill is sponsored by Senator Boyd and also Senator McCollum. Senator Boyd, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to address this committee. Candidly, the bill in front of you is a bill that is.
Senators, let me get your attention. Thank you, Senator Boyd.
Candidly, in front of you, the bill that is in front of y'all is very much a work in progress, and we have been meeting with numerous people on this bill. What we're attempting to do is to solve a problem.
Senator Boyd, speaking tonight.
Okay.
You know we actually.
Okay. What we're attempting to do is to solve a problem in many counties across the state. When people get their garbage liens, what has been happening is the garbage liens have accumulated over a number of years, and they have gone back retroactively filing sometimes in excess of 10-year-old bills. This property has changed hands now multiple times. And so the new property owners are going to pay their tax, and they are being assessed a property bill that was due sometimes in excess of 10 years ago. There's not a clear way for title attorneys right now to search and make sure that these are properly filed so they can get notice of these taxes when they sell those properties, to make sure that those debts are paid off. And so we are working on it. Is a work in progress. I'm going to be candid. We're going to have some good faith in the committee just to let this pass for a little bit. This also will go to Judiciary A. And I'm working with Senator McCarran, and we have a number of our property attorneys that are working in this process right now to make sure that we can get a good bill out that's a clean bill, that when our constituents know that they buy a piece of property, that they'll know where those, that they'll know that they can get a clean title, and that that's all taxes have been paid on those properties. So that's kind of what the essence of the bill is, but it is going to require a little bit of good faith of y'all to let us work through this process.
Thank you, Senator Boyd. So what I'm hearing, that the property is, you have a new property owner who is going through the process of purchasing property, and there's a lien attached to the property, a garbage lien from prior years and prior owners for that property, and they having problems with the encumbrances on the title. Is that correct?
We're having and what has happened actually is the property's changed hands. I mean, truly like 2 and 3 times. The Daily Journal actually did an article on this, I believe it was 2 years ago, and kind of highlighted this in a number of our communities. And so it will have changed hands 2 or 3 times. And when that third owner goes to buy his car tag, he now is paying all the garbage fees. And so clearly this is a problem. Our supervisors have asked us to work on this issue to make sure that this is a more streamlined process. And that's what we're attempting to do in this bill here today.
Senator Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so what happens? I mean, are we trying to, I guess, the taxes that were owed, are we trying to basically say that they're not owed? You know what I mean? What are we trying to do?
What we're trying to do is clean up the process, Senator Butler, so that there's good notice in the books when you want to go buy a piece of property, that there's a clear book, there's a clear notice where you can go and look and see if there's garbage fees owed on this property. We will try to go back, and we're in the process too of looking to see what we do, to look at those that are the old processes. So this bill will do kind of 2 things. We're hoping this process is we will fix the process going forward. That's the first and foremost goal of this. And then
they would basically, notice upfront before they purchase the property?
Absolutely.
All right, Senator McCollum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to clarify a few things. So we're in municipalities, but in reality, this bill is not a municipality bill. This bill is for your counties that are out there collecting your garbage in the rural areas. You and I both know that in a municipality, your water, your sewer, and your garbage are all wound together in one bill. And if you don't pay it, they cut you off. But in the counties, there's an understanding you have to pick up the garbage whether they pay it or not to keep the rubbish from accumulating. So this bill is to go, and that's where there's been a little disconnect in the whole process here, and I apologize, but our goal is to try to get this over to Judiciary A so we can really take it apart. And Mr. Chairman, if you have concerns about that, we're not opposed to a reverse appealer going in here, but I don't want to put one in Judiciary A when it hits our subcommittee here in just a little bit. But there is a working draft currently downstairs. We feel like it's going to be a very good product when it comes out. We have the support of the Land Title Association here in Mississippi to get it moving, and we have some good competent folks to work through the process in Jud A. The biggest thing is when you buy your property and if it's already changed hands 3 times, we don't want somebody then to go get the box of records where they filed this garbage lien. We're not talking about taxes. That garbage lien, this box of records over there, and say, oh, by the way, I pulled one out from 7 years ago that you're now going to have to pay if you want to get your tag, just because the record process was so bad. We want to clean all that up, get it good to go for our people and for our attorneys out there. So if it make you feel any more comfortable with it, we're not opposed to a reverse appealer because we've got a whole committee sub that will be coming down. But we don't want to do that when we get to Jud A. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, I got a question. So there's been a lot of talk about encumbrances of property and titles and liens. Does the lien or does the amount owed not follow the debtor?
Technically, it actually attaches to the property because it is a lien. Now, there is a discussion out there, and you can get 3 attorneys together, and everyone has got a different position. But there are attorneys that go by the position that it does follow personally. But unfortunately, my position, and Senator Branning and I talked about this, Senator Suber may be of the same opinion, but whenever it attaches to that person, it attaches to that person's assets and property. So, if we're going to make it personal, we need to make it personal. If we're going to make it attached to the property, we need to make it attached to the property. Yeah. This is a really big issue with rental property for sure. We would welcome you to our group to discuss this further. We want all the attorneys involved that are in this business and make sure that we get a product that is workable before it's over with.
Any other questions? Senator McCollum, your motion would be put a reverse
So
appeal.
unless, and I ask this, Mr. Chairman, unless there's any concerns from the committee, I'd let it go forward like this. But if the committee won't, I don't know, was there any discussion as to wanting the reverse appealer or?
I mean, we the first committee, so.
That's
when
why
it
I'd
goes to
rather do
judge-
it now if you
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah,
Let's go ahead and put it in there since we're
That's
doing
fine.
committee sub. I would have a motion to add a reverse appealer to this, Mr. Chair.
Senators, you've heard the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. And then now my motion, Mr. Chairman, would be title sufficient to pass committee sub.
Tax Fish do pass committee, so all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That bill will be referred out to Judiciary A. Do I hear a motion to rise and report?
Rise and report.